With all of the legendary Pokemon being shiny locked in Scarlet and Violet, a lot of folks have been looking for other ways to shiny hunt these legendaries. But what if I told you there was a game that had 56 shiny huntable legendaries and it was already released? That's right, Pokemon Sword and Shield was pretty looked down upon during its release, but after seeing what the future held, many people have been going back to get some of these shiny legendaries. Today I'm going to be breaking down everything that you need to know to successfully shiny hunt Pokemon in Dynamax Adventures. And even if you've done some Dynamax Adventures before, make sure you stick around because I've got a few hot tips at the end of the video that you might not know about. So before we get into the actual DAs themselves, let's talk about what you'll need to start. You'll need a copy of Pokemon Sword or Shield. You'll also need the Crown Tundra DLC. Some optional things for this would be the Shiny Charm, Nintendo Online, and some friends to play with in multiplayer. If you just picked up your copy of Pokemon Sword or Shield in the DLC, you're in luck. You don't have to get very far at all to get to Dynamax Adventures. Since Dynamax Adventures are guaranteed captures, you don't need to have high-level Pokemon to do these hunts. You just need to get to the point in the story where you've been to Motostoke. After that, you can go back to Wedgehurst and take the train over to Crown Tundra, after beating up an innocent bystander, of course. Once you're here, you'll have to get involved in some family drama. You'll have a battle with Peony, but you don't need to win. After you definitely won that battle, go ahead and run over to the Dynamax Adventure Cave. Once you're there, you'll have to do a little tutorial on how Dynamax Adventures work. But here's the basics. Your party picks their random Pokemon before you actually know what the boss is, so just pick the good stuff. For the tutorial, it's always Suicune. If you're doing a random Dynamax adventure, which is selected by saying anything is fine to the scientist, you won't exactly know what Pokemon is at the end of the Dynamax adventure. You'll just see one of its types. You'll have to fight the Pokemon on the way up to the boss, and when you beat them, you'll be able to capture them and add them to your team. So try to pick a path that has Pokemon that are good against the boss's type. When beating any Pokemon in Dynamax Adventures, you should always be catching them. They're a 100% catch rate, so you can use any Pokeball that you like. Each Pokemon in Dynamax Adventures that you catch has a base chance of 1 in 300 to be shiny, or 1 in 100 if you have the Shiny Charm. One thing to note is, you won't know if the Pokemon is shiny until the end of the Dynamax adventure, so don't hold off on catching a Pokemon just because it doesn't appear to be shiny in battle. Every player in the DA can and should catch the Pokemon, but only one can use them during the DA itself. Using a Pokemon during a Dynamax adventure doesn't mean that other players won't be able to keep it in the end. Be careful. If anybody in your party is KO'd during these battles, you'll lose a life. If your party loses all 4 of their lives, you're immediately ejected from the Dynamax adventure and you have to start again. These do not recharge between battles, so be careful. When the Dynamax adventure ends, you're taken to a screen where you can pick one of the Pokemon you'd like to keep. But here's the catch. You can only take each of the boss Pokemon once. So what that means is, if you want to shiny hunt a legendary or Ultra Beast, you cannot take it until it's shiny. If you do take a boss Pokemon and do another DA for it, it'll run away as soon as you beat it. So if you're seeing that, that's why. You've already caught it at some point. You can, however, take as many of the non-boss Pokemon as you'd like. So if you need something for your dex, definitely take one. After picking your Pokemon, you'll get some Dynite ore depending on how many lives your team had left in the end. Once you're out of the cave, the scientist will offer to save the path of the legendary you just fought. So if you want to hunt that Pokemon specifically, that's how you do it. You can only have 3 paths saved at any given time, but you can replace them whenever you want. Well, now you might be asking, well, how do I even find these different boss paths? Boss paths can be grabbed a few different ways. After most DAs, Peonia will be looking real excited. If you talk to her, she'll either give you a cosmetic item or she'll offer to sell you a path to a random boss. She'll charge you some Dynite ore for the convenience, but honestly, you'll just have a ton of this anyways. Another way to get a new boss path is to just talk to the scientist, and when she asks what Pokemon you would like to go after, just say anything is fine. This will give you a new Dynamax adventure target that you haven't taken yet. Warning, if you have a legendary in the lead of your party, and it's a boss available in Dynamax Adventures, for some reason Peonia will only offer to give you that Pokemon's path, so make sure you don't accidentally keep the boss Pokemon in the lead party spot. The last way to get new boss Pokemon paths is the easiest way. Do multiplayer with some friends and save the path for yourself. If you have some friends to play with, these DAs can be a lot easier to do. The NPCs are not very smart, so having a few friends who don't just use acupressure over and over again is really nice. Plus, whenever you finish any DA, you can save the location. So if your friend has something you want, just do a quick run for it and then save it. If you're looking for some homies to do DAs with, make sure to check out our Discord server. People are shiny hunting and running DAs all the time. Dynamax adventures can be done through local co-op, but most folks will just be playing with others online. To do Dynamax adventures online, you'll need Nintendo Switch Online, so make sure that you have that before trying to connect to people. And with that, you know all of the basics of Dynamax adventures. Here's some DA tips. Get the Shiny Charm. The Shiny Charm triples your chance of seeing a shiny and is very worthwhile overall if you're planning on doing any kind of shiny hunting. To get the charm, you'll need to complete the base Pokedex, which is 400 Pokemon. It takes some effort, but it'll definitely save you some time in the long run. Use that Dynite Ore. Once you get to 999 Dynite Ore, you won't be able to get any more. The backpacker over here will sell you lots of good items for it, so make sure you're not just maxed out. If you're going to be doing Dynamax Adventures single player, another hot tip is to turn off battle animations. When you're playing single player, this will make them go way faster. Unfortunately, this doesn't work for multiplayer DAs. And finally, here are a few advanced tips for you to use during your Dynamax Adventures. When you finish a Dynamax adventure and save the path, if you go back, all of the Pokemon will be different, besides the boss. But there are some bosses that are very difficult to beat without the right Pokemon. So if you find a path that has exactly what you need to beat the boss, it'd be great if you could just keep doing that one, right? Here's a trick for that. When you're selecting the Pokemon to take with you, and you see that the boss isn't shiny, you can actually just close out of the game and reload it. When you start the DA again, you'll actually have the same Pokemon available, and the NPCs will still make the same choices as well. Even though the Pokemon are the same, they actually have new shiny rolls. The bad thing is, if you find a shiny that isn't the boss, it has to go to the Shadow Realm. Otherwise, you lose your path. The only real downside to this is that the scientists will start charging you Dynite Ore after you disconnect multiple times, so just make sure that you're stocked up on that. This is a really great way to farm those really annoying bosses, like Zygarde, Kyogre, and Groudon. At the end of each DA, the scientist always asks if you want to remember the path to that Pokemon. But if you're mashing B, you'll just delete it out of your list. It feels real bad. If you ever accidentally do this, just soft reset your game. It gets you back to the point right after you ended your Dynamax adventure, but it was before you deleted that from your list. Just make sure you don't save after you deleted the path, otherwise it's gone. And with that, you're now in the know about DAs. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask in the comments or pop into a live stream Thursday through Saturday. We've been doing a ton of these Dynamax adventures recently, so feel free to join in.